What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about American Wedding. This is part of my series because American Pie is celebrating its 25th anniversary, and I wanted to at least also go ahead and wrap up the theatrical released American Pie sequels. Go ahead and talk about all of them. They're all problematic. It's just funny how time passes and you look at it and you're like, oh wow, we were doing those jokes just 20 years ago. Cool. I knew American Wedding was gonna have problems, mainly because one of the things that I've been saying throughout the first two films is that Stifler is the number one lightning rod for all of the content. Most of the, I would say most 99.9% of the content that you would find objectionable nowadays. So if you just like removed his character, the movie immediately tones down a lot. It's less true kind of for like the first movie when kids are like ogling Nadia over the internet, which is just like everyone's problem. But a lot of like the homophobic jokes and everything come from Stifler and not really the other characters. So, in the third movie, which is could also just be called American Pie, Stifler's Redemption, um, it's an odd one. It hasn't. It's definitely not where the other two were for me. Even going into this, even before like the advancement of time, like if this was just like a hot review right after the release of American Wedding, I remember not liking the third one as much as the first two. It still has a killer soundtrack, by the way. I'm still like, if one thing has come across of me listening to these American Pie movies is that they all have killer soundtracks of music from their time periods. That is the takeaway of the American Pie franchise is if you listened to, I don't know, this certain style of music, what do I want to call it? Like, it's not all like emo rock because it's not quite Fall Out Boy, but it's quasi. It's like the Ataris, All American Rejects, those kind of bands. Whatever that was, that little phase we had. They're all over these movies. Dirty Little Secret and stuff like that are in these movies. So, yeah, this one also has missing cast members. So we've said goodbye. Chris Klein turned down this sequel, so he did not come back because I guess he has better things to do with his life. There used to be a time when Chris Klein thought he was a movie star, and he was wrong. But you can't force somebody to show up for a sequel, but I love that Chris Klein, whose career is like nowhere now, was like, an American Wedding? No. I'm above that now. I did Rollerball. I am on my way, sir. So, no, he didn't come back. And oddly enough, the movie didn't invite any of the girls back at all. Like, none of them. Which I thought was a little weird, given the circumstance. But when you think about, well, okay, so Mina Suvari is tied to Chris Klein, and Tara Reid broke up with Kevin, and Natasha Lyonne is really tangentially always connected to the franchise because she's never really with any of the characters anyway. She's sort of like female Stifler, but like that's also sort of derogatory way to describe her character. Anyway, you can kind of understand why they had to write a new character for January Jones because they were like, there aren't enough women in this film, so we're going to need to create one. The parents have more to do here. All adult characters, while getting ready for the wedding, have more to do here. We also get, a character like Bear, who shows up more, who is part of a sequence that is problematic, but also at the same time, again, feels like part of this apology tour for Stifler, because he accidentally walks into a gay bar, which initially horrifies him. And then when he's challenged with the idea of not being, I don't know, that not everybody wants to sleep with him, he's like, whoa, what? So then he's interested in getting the attention of every guy in the bar, even though he's clearly been homophobic for 3 movies. So this is what, I said before. I was like, this movie feels like the apology tour for Steve Stifler. So, redemption is what he gets here. He also is the one that teaches Jim to dance. He all of a sudden learns how to he also suddenly becomes a great ballroom dancer, so that he can learn how to teach Jim how to ballroom dance for his wedding. And he has to spend the whole movie being really nice because he's trying to get January Jones's character to like him. This is where January Jones comes from, by the way. She it was kind of her breakout role. So we do get the requisite Stifler's mom cameo that happens for Finch at the end, although it has a completely sort of different result. And if I remember correctly, she's in American Reunion. Obviously, I'm watching these one by one, so I believe she's in American Reunion also. And yeah, it's fine. It's just Jim and Michelle getting married. Kevin and Finch are there because they're Jim's friends, and they show up for things, whereas Oz just doesn't. I think they give some passing references to why Oz can't be there, and it's really stupid. It's like watching a TV show where they've written a character off, and where they're like, where did so-and-so go? Oh, they got called home to the... And you're like, what? That makes no sense about anything. So it's okay. This movie's okay. I hate like throwing too much praise onto it again, because watching these films so many years later, it's like they have problems. I get it. And as we get closer and closer to 2024, it becomes harder and harder to say it was a different time. It's like, this was 20 years ago. I mean, a lot can happen in a generation, but this was still, it feels like we're coming out of the American Pie movies. And this is sort of representative of around the same time when we had movies like Mean Girls. So that were smarter and had something to say, and were changing the way that teen movies needed to be. So yeah, I think they thought they were closing out a trilogy. I don't think they were planning American Reunion at this time. So it kind of does that. It's the natural progression of the characters. Alyson Hannigan's character gets progressively more screen time with every movie. So that's good for her. She's good in the movie. Jason Biggs is Jason Biggs. There's only just some exciting you can get about that. And then the other two friends are just kind of left to... Thomas Ian Nicholas has never really gotten to do much in this franchise as Kevin. Kevin has just been sort of a nothing burger of a character. But in this movie, he's also just kind of, what's up? Why am I here? They give Finch has this really sort of interesting dynamic where because Stifler's trying to get with January Jones's character, and Finch also wants to, but he sees that Stifler's trying to be nice, so Finch is like, well, I'll be Stifler. So he becomes the Finchmeister. And it's just fun to see the dynamic flip there. So I'm not gonna say this movie's like all bad, but it definitely has some stuff where you're like, oh yeah, we shouldn't do that. The thing about Stifler too as a character is that also like these really disgusting things always happen to Stifler. So he may be a lightning rod of problematic behavior, but then he also ends up having, like in the second movie he gets peed on, in the third movie he literally eats dog shit. So there you go. You know, so it's like he's always getting sort of like punished uh, by the universe for being who he is. But yeah, this film allows him to get his redemption and come across as a good guy. And when you think about that, was supposed to be like the wrap up to the trilogy, it's like that's what they wanted to leave you with, was even Stifler can change. But can he really? Why don't we wait and see what happens at American Reunion, which was made like a full 10 years later. So almost 10 years later. So for American Wedding, audio description, by the way, it was okay. It's fine. It hit all of the points that I remember. Hey, I haven't seen American Wedding as much as the first two films, so I was thinking it wasn't really bringing back as much memory to me as everything. But sometimes while I was watching the film, I knew what the next joke was. Like I was like, oh yeah, okay, now I remember the scene, you know. So I remembered what happened. Like when they were throwing the bachelor party at Jim's house, I knew where that scene was going. So yes, it seemed to hit everything it needed to hit for me. So I don't have any problems with it. Anyway, that's it. American Wedding. Should we still be watching these movies? I don't know. I mean, they're going to be really just like nostalgically for the people who were there at the time. Just like I imagine a lot of teen movies are. I think teen movies just work for the generation for which they were originally made for. And only as this like look back, you know, like, wow, that was what it used to be like for us. So I'm gonna give American Wedding, I'm gonna give it a B minus. It's not quite as funny as the other ones. Characters are missing. Yeah, it's weird to redeem Stifler. It's weird that he becomes sort of like the second lead of the film, or even the lead, really. There's such a huge focus on Stifler here, whereas there wasn't in the other two films. He kind of just pops up as an obnoxious character in the first two films. Here, there's such a focus on him because he's either trying to do something for the wedding, he's trying to be nice for this girl. He's all over this, and it's kind of weird that was the direction for the franchise. When you think about the fact that basically all of the straight-to-video spin-offs are based on like Stifler's cousin, I think. Isn't that what he is? They obviously they thought, well, the Stifler character is the one that everybody relates to or remembers or wants to watch. But maybe not, you know. Write better characters. Like, give Kevin something to do in this movie, and then it'll be less of a problem. But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and going with me on this American journey. I will see you guys on the other side.